In this video, John talks about the hungry skinny ewe syndrome. So merino ewes with singles or twins that aren't being well enough fed to support their lamb create a problem that continues from the spring period into the summer and autumn.
I'm going to concentrate for a moment on the unimproved hill country because we're starting to get a bit of control over our improved hill country because it's better subdivided and so on. We bought in Farmax and used it, which is a modelling program for those who don't know about, that takes your feed, takes your animals and spits out some optimum scenarios. So we had this potential area, let's say we start at 1 hectare or 100 hectares or whatever. And then we had to drop it by the area that was grazable. So we were back to 62% of the original area. And of that 62% that was still left, Farmax calculated they were only using 50% of the feed that was grown there. So in other words, of that hectare of land, we were realising 31% of its potential. Now this is not going into a development program to grow more feed, this is talking about what you've already got. And this stuff grows and dies and releases methane, whatever into the environment just the same way as if it was processed through cows. It's a closed circle. Let's look at this unimproved hill country in a little more detail. Every farm will tell you, if you say, what's your limiting factor? What is the time of year when you really struggle? And 9 times out of 10 they'll say the early spring. So let's look at the early spring, late spring and the summer, which is the sort of cycle. And I'm tending to talk about ewes here, but it's the same for cows really. Let's look at what's happening on these blocks. So you'll see there on the very left, my records told me that this stuff was capable of growing about 6 kilograms of dry matter per day. So that meant we could put out a couple of ewes on it because they require 3 kilograms. But we maintain that stocking rate right through the late spring and the summer. And you'll see that in the column on the left, they eat about 3 kilograms, but there's part of it ungrazable that they don't get to, and I'll talk about that later. So what do they have to do? They have to subsidise that by taking weight off their body. And there's all sorts of nasty things happen when you start taking your weight off your body if you're in that stage of either late pregnancy or lactation. If we stop and think about it, if every hectare only contains 3 kilograms of dry matter, imagine how much she's got to graze. The effort that's going to be required in doing that. She's never going to do it to get her fill. And one of the things that she's going to do is to drop her lamb off, particularly if it's twins. You know, she's not milking well, they don't tend to follow her, and so she loses them. And it's what Chris Mulvaney calls the hungry, skinny ewe syndrome. But we can quantify some of the cost of this poor spring feeding. We say there's maybe another 1 year and 100 that'll actually die. 5% additional lamb losses and less weaning weight. And that amounts to about 22 kilograms a ewe. I don't know how accurate that is, but I think it's a reasonable stab. But then we've got to do something with that ewe. She is now, instead of being, when we put her out there, she was condition score 3. We have to bring her in and we have to feed her well. And we have to feed her on feed that would normally be finishing lambs for us. And so we can take the energy requirement that she uses and transfer that to lambs. And we can come up with a weight, a saleable weight, which is about $40 a ewe. So the combined cost of feeding them that ewe poorly in the spring is about $62 a ewe. Now, if you're running 3,000 ewes out there, you're looking something like a couple $100,000. So you can afford to do something.
A key message to take out of this video is the hidden costs of poor condition ewes.